Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of Ready, Aim, Retire, the show where we talk about your goals, your values, your family, your assets, and kind of everywhere in between. This week, I'm joined Han Solo with Tony Shore from the great state of Minnesota. Tony's always here. We know this, so that's a given. But Tony, how we doing today?
Great.
Yeah.
Fantastic, in fact. I've gotten a lot done. We're redoing the basement, and I've moved a lot of stuff out, my records mainly, into a separate room now to
Okay.
open up the main area of our basement. It's a finished basement. I
Nice.
just need a little more room down there. We're trying to weed out stuff slowly to get ready, over the next year, planning on hopefully transitioning into downsizing a bit, maybe a one-level home.
Oh, so you're cleaning it up so you can sell it.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah.
You're too young to be transitioning, aren't you? You
I'm a
look,
young pup yet, but you know
yeah.
what? We're sick of we live in a split level, and we've been there about 28 years, and we
Oh,
raised
wow.
our
You know,
or 27 years.
you're
We
due for a
raised our
change.
kids there. Yeah.
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 And we want a house where we can transition into retirement. We want to
Right.
buy that house and transition. You know what I mean? A
Okay.
one
Yeah. Yeah.
level. And you've talked to a lot of I bet you have a lot of clients that you talk to about these things, right?
Right. Right. For sure. For sure. And I've had a lot of clients do that. Obviously transition, either it's a one level or maybe a townhouse or condo or
Yeah.
something like that. Just a little bit less space, a little bit, less people coming over. Um, I don't know where I'm going to be at that time, Tony. It's going to be a while, first of all, before I even think of retiring. I might work. I might Warren Buffett this thing and work till 95.
Isn't that crazy? In
Well,
his
I enjoy it every
90s?
day, and I could tell he does too. Like I was talking to somebody the other day, and I'm like now I have no kids at my house. I'm like, I come here on the weekends, and I think it's pure. Like I just got nothing else to do. Like by the time I do my running around and do whatever, I'm just kind of like, okay, I'll just I'm knock some stuff off here. So I guess I'll have the writing will be on the wall when I have no desire to do that.
Yeah.
When it's like when it becomes work, but currently it isn't. So I'm fortunate, knock on wood, that that's kind of the deal right now.
I'm fortunate as well. I love what I do, and as long as my voice holds out, I'm going to keep doing what I'm doing. So I'm not planning on retiring. I just know that health-wise,
Yeah,
I want to be in the right place when that time
you're
comes.
doing
Because we,
planning, Tony. That's a
yeah,
smart thing. You're planning for the future.
I
It's what
am.
we talk about on the show all the time.
That's
We didn't. I
why.
didn't even know Tony was going to say that, but
That's true.
nice little transition. Nice little transition.
Yeah, that's what we're talking about today on today's show. I mean, we talk about it all the time, but the specific topic, you said you wanted to talk about the 4 pillars of advanced planning, right?
Exactly. So at our firm, Tony, we work with like you've been to our events, but hundreds of clients, and each one we go through a planning process, and some of them may not know they're in the planning process. They might not know that this is why we're doing what we're doing, but we operate so it's structurally sound under 4 pillars of advanced planning, and the pillars are enhanced planning. I speak a lot of this at the local libraries and things like that. Personal wealth, tax strategy, and investment management. And too often, what I see, Tony, is people come in and they're really focused on the investment management part. They've heard about us, they've been referred to us, and that's they want the investment management. And I always say, well, it takes 3 steps to get there. We have to get through the enhanced planning, the personal wealth, the tax strategy, and then we can look at the investment management. So we're not like a retail broker out there where you walk in and say, this is our money and do something with it. I'm the firm belief, if I don't know your whole picture of your life and where you're trying to get to, that part's negligible to me. We have to understand all these different parts. So today, what I want to do for the listeners out there is I want to break down how we do this, and kind of the process that people go through, and clients that are listening, there's going to be a light bulb that goes above your head saying, oh yeah, they went through these things. I
Yes.
didn't know they were going through these things, but we,
Yeah.
we definitely have a process, and I think it's important for people to listen out there, because if you're there and you're coming into retirement, or you're sitting there and working with a retail brokerage of some sort, I think that today's show your eyes will be opened a little bit to kind of what's really important. So Let's begin, Tony, without further ado.
Yes.
So can we put that chart? Can we put the thing right on the screen? Okay, so on the screen for, again, we love both the podcast listeners. You just get to listen to my beautiful voice. But if you're watching on YouTube, I've actually put the 4 pillars up on the screen for you.
Yep.
So you're able to see it.
Got it.
So
Yep.
it was
I'll
there.
put it back.
Tony will figure that out, but I'll keep talking. He's got it. So the first quadrant that we're going to speak on is enhanced planning. And the purpose of enhanced planning is to preserve, and transfer your wealth with clarity and control. And I emphasize clarity, Tony, because a lot of people don't know how their stuff's passed. They don't know that, when their children inherit an IRA, that they have to liquidate that over a 10-year period and incur all the taxes, not only on the IRA, but on their personal tax returns. So depending on what they're making, you've put them in a bit of a tax predicament. So we want people to understand is, this is what you have, and this is how it transfers, and this is how it looks to the next generation, whoever that may be. That may be children, that may be nieces, nephews, that may be charities. It doesn't matter who's getting it. You want them to get it the way you want it to go there. So the focus in this area, obviously, legacy planning. So we will ask the questions, for your clients, like, once we understand what their dynamic is, what's important to you? Is legacy important to you? A lot of people, Tony, in the beginning, legacy is not so important. All right. It may not, like, we give a scale of 1 out of 10 and we'll get 5s and 6s and 4s. But it's interesting as we work with people and we go down this path as a partner down the road, all of a sudden they have a grandchild.
Mm-hmm.
And then you know what happens? Legacy becomes more important. And then they have another one. Legacy also becomes very important. And because we've mastered all of the boxes that I'm showing you, then they realize they're in a good spot and maybe they should be focusing more on legacy. So it's something that we definitely start the conversation. We don't necessarily end. And in our 4 pillars, we really revisit these all the time. It's not like, oh, we go through the 4 pillars and you're a client and then, okay, great. No, we always go back to them
because these things change. Like you just said, people's if they take a questionnaire and say, how important to you is legacy planning or estate planning, leaving money for your loved ones? At the time, it might be a 5 on a scale of 1 to 10. By the time they hit 75 or 80, that might have moved up to a 1 or a 2 or a 3 even.
Yeah.
Or a 1 even. Yeah.
Yeah, it goes. You're right. It goes right up the scale. Yeah. And I think a lot of it is the unknown. So the unknown, when you come in and you sit down with us or anyone else, it's the unknown of, do I have enough? And the biggest concern, am I going to run out of money? Am I going to have enough if there's a healthcare incident? So they want to solve that first, which is totally understandable. And when we build things out, I understand that. I've been doing this for so long, Tony. So I understand kind of the psyche of somebody and the concerns. The concerns are very similar with most people that come in here. Most people that come in here, I don't get any wild card concerns. It's running out of money. It's having enough income. It's enjoying retirement, whatever that looks like for the individual, right? So we definitely focus on the legacy planning in the enhanced planning quadrant, the estate planning. We coordinate with attorneys, trustees, so we couldn't coordinate things together. We're able to, we have a network of attorneys. We're able to do a lot of that work and help the client out in-house and have a direct contact with the attorney. So we just make it very seamless where they can come in and it's almost like a one-stop shop in the sense of we can make sure that this section of their life is in perfect order. And then we look at generational wealth strategies, things depending on the client of what's important for them. And I mentioned grandchildren. Grandchildren become very important. And then they look at, UTMA accounts. They look at, hey, how can we help how can I help my grandchild out? And I want to add something into my trust to make sure they get this. And, and it becomes more important. Just like anything, as a relationship with a grandchild grows, your relationship grows, your bond grows, and they become, of importance. And I'll even tell, what I tell everybody that I meet with is most people generally like their grandchildren more than their own children. That's from years of grassroots research, Tony. Like I see it.
Yeah, I see it too. Yeah.
And the pictures I get, like I sit down with clients, every day, and I see a lot of pictures of a lot of grandchildren doing a lot of things. I don't see as many pictures of the child that made the grandchildren, the
Right.
child, so
Or
I see
even hear their names at all. It's all
no,
about the
it's more about
grandkids.
Jimmy and
Yeah.
Nico and Luca, and it's like that's what matters, so so we definitely, I think when you're getting to know somebody and we're working with somebody, these are the things that we focus on in our conversations. We focus on the enhanced planning. The next section that we look at in depth is personal wealth. So once we figure the enhanced planning, we move on to personal wealth, and that purpose of that quadrant is to build, manage, and sustain financial independence throughout retirement. That's what everybody is looking for.
Yep.
Everybody is looking for financial independence, having the retirement that they dreamed of, doing the things. They might have some bucket list items. They might have some travel items. They might have some family items. Whatever that looks like for the individual, it falls under the personal wealth, and our focus areas in there are obviously retirement income planning.
That's a big
That's
one.
the number one, and that's the number one thing a lot of people come in our office for. We get, introductions from clients we're grateful. The clients that I have, I got to tell you, Tony, they trust us. They feel that we provide everything they need, and they introduce us to a lot of people, whether that's family, colleagues, friends, and we're grateful for that. But a lot of times when they first come in, they're interested in the retirement income planning. They're interested in the investment management because their friend has told them, hey, retirement's great. Or, hey, I'm a few years out, but I sit down with Rob, several times a year, and he shows me what retirement's going to look like. So he has a roadmap. So definitely a high priority for people. So we definitely focus on that. The growth and the wealth accumulation, growing your assets, cash flow, and goals-based planning. So what that means is we got to solve the retirement income puzzle. Perfect. Then we have to look at cash flow, because a lot of people don't really realize what they actually need, Tony. You retire, and you're used to saying, I make $100,000 a year at my job. But what you don't realize is you have to look at, what do I net at my job? Like, what's my net number? Like the gross number makes no difference, but the net, because you're paying into Social Security, you're paying into Medicare. Hopefully, you're funding your 401k. So you're paying your health insurance, whatever that looks like. So your net is not near what your gross is. But once you come into retirement, you're not paying into a lot of those things. You're switching from that accumulation phase in life to the distribution phase, where we're very, very efficient on. So we want to look at what the goals are, what the cash flow needs are, and sit down with the client and walk through those. And then the family and lifestyle objectives. Everyone's got a list, Tony. Everyone's got something. Even, it doesn't have to be, I want to travel the world. It doesn't have to be like anything exotic, but you have a list.
Maybe taking the kids to Disney World.
Stuff like that. Yeah.
Or the grandkids.
I want to go on a road trip. We want to go on a road trip, or we want to like 2 or 3 times a year, take 5 days and look at a national park, or like everyone's got their different things. And you're right. As the grandkids come, those things kind of get shelved. and then it becomes about soccer games and baseball games and watching them grow up and enjoying that kind of stuff. But then inevitably taking some sort of family cruise, a Disney trip, something where they can just enjoy everything together as a family. So those it's important for us to know what the family and lifestyle goals are, because we're your partners. We want to make sure, we want to help you get to those. We want to make sure we're planning accordingly. If we have a big wedding, I have a client that's got I have a client that his son and daughter-in-law are getting married actually over in Italy next year.
Oh,
and
wow.
Actually the couple getting married are actually my clients too, and they were getting married over in Italy. So that's a big one. It's an impressive one. I can't wait to see pictures and things like that. I've heard the planning, but that's a big family and lifestyle objective, right? That hey, we're doing this amazing wedding over there, which is something that we have to know right away, which I knew before. The happy couple is getting married because I dealt with their parents, so I knew this was happening. And kind of what that involved. So definitely personal wealth, number 2 on our list. So again, we're moving folks from we starting with the enhanced planning, getting to know, all about the estate, how that passes, letting you understand. Then we go into personal wealth where we're looking at that retirement income puzzle. We're looking at your actual family and lifestyle objectives. Those two things people don't talk about, Tony. Someone comes in and they take their statements and they say, guess what? We can do better. Oh, we're better than that. Or hey, let me compare this. And that is negligible compared to what actually really matters.
Yeah.
Like everyone given the chance can do well in the investment management side, but this is where it matters. And the third quadrant is tax strategy.
Of course, taxes always have to play a part,
They
right?
have to. And
Yeah.
again, it's number 3 out of 4. So it's of high importance. So the purpose is to maximize, what you keep through proactive tax efficient planning. What could that mean? That could mean depending, and again, I don't want 1,000 phone calls thinking everyone out there needs a Roth conversion. We definitely use Roth conversion strategies, but not
Sure.
everybody needs one. And it comes down to really, we have to look at the income because at the end of the day, go to the quadrant above. That the retirement income planning is above the tax planning because we have to solve that because we have to solve the cash flow need, or retirement is not going to be what you envision. At the end of the day, if you're sitting at home because you can't do anything or you can't do what you want, you're not going to have the retirement you dreamed of. So that's why that one's above it. So definitely, though, when we're looking, we're proactive, not reactive when it comes to tax planning. When it comes to tax efficient strategies, we work alongside a CPA partner. I'm not a CPA, Tony. I know enough to be dangerous. I feel on the tax side, I could do taxes. I can do my own taxes, but but I'm very, very well versed in this area. Very well versed, just through the years and years and working with CPAs and working with clients. So
Sure.
the focus area here is when we're talking tax strategy is Roth conversions, tax efficient withdrawal planning. How can we do this tax efficiently? Because we know once I turn 73 or 75, depending on your age, the government is going to force your hand to make you take what's called required minimum distributions. What that can do is that can do a lot of things. One, it raises your taxable income. It could push you into an IRMA situation where all of a sudden your Medicare premiums increase dramatically for both of you if you're married or if you're single for you. We want to avoid that if we can. That's why we want to be tax efficient in our withdrawal strategies. I have clients, Tony, that are charitable. They want to make sure that a certain charity gets something, and even we do a lot of required distributions now. I would say now more than ever. I've just noticed it the last couple of years where we do a lot of required distributions direct to charities. And what that does
good.
is, from a client standpoint, you don't pay the tax on it. It doesn't come under your taxable income. The required distribution goes directly to the charity. So the charity gets the exact number you would normally want to give them. If I want to give a certain charity $500, they still get $500, but now that's not on my taxable income. So if I was out there and giving to charities, whether that's my church or different causes that you like, and you're doing that every year, and you add that number up, whatever that happens to be, to several or a few or whatever different charities, what you're doing is you're paying tax on the money and then you're giving it to the charity. Wouldn't it just make a heck of a lot more sense to not pay tax on the money and the charity still gets the same amount?
Yeah, I noticed my parents were in their 70s, and I noticed at that time that they were writing out a pretty big check to their church. They would tithe, and they'd write it out a couple times a year. And then they would do that. Well,
Right.
they were also having to take required minimum distributions at the same time out of their IRA.
Right.
Well, but they would take the money out, put it in their checking account. They'd pay taxes on that money. It would raise their taxable income for the year, and then they'd write a check out to the church for a certain amount. It wasn't peanuts, and so
It doesn't matter.
they didn't realize that they could have saved all that tax money had they just done a direct
Right.
charitable contribution, right?
Yeah, totally. Because you're paying the tax and then you're doing what Tony's parents are doing, which is not uncommon, Tony. I would say
We're
more
doing. They
common
don't.
than uncommon. Like
I
everybody
fixed
does
that though. I told
Okay,
them.
good.
Yeah.
Good for you. You got to help mom and pops out, but
Yeah.
and it preserves your inheritance, Tony. Like you got to
Well, I
look at it
wasn't
that way
looking at
too,
it
folks.
self.
And that's not Tony's driving force.
Yeah.
If you listen to our
No.
show, good guy. It's not that, but being tax efficient, it means something, and if you can, you always want to be tax efficient. And obviously in the tax area, we have an integration with CPA partners. In fact, our CPA partners do a lot of our clients' tax returns. So if there's issues or if there's anything, they notify us. Say, hey, you know what? Next time Mr. and Mrs. Smith is in, talk to them about this. That's important, because a lot of people are working with, they have their investment, management guy. They got their trust person. Then over here, they got their tax person. And then what are you going to do? Just drive around all the time? And they're not talking to each other. So when we have the 4 pillars, all these pillars are talking to each other. That is so important when you're really looking at your overall picture. And the last one that we'll hit on is investment management, the one I'd say that everyone focuses on a little bit too much. But the purpose is to design and implement portfolios that align with your goals, your values, and your time horizon. So we want to make sure, that we do portfolio design and implementation, that it matches you. We don't do cookie cutter. You don't fill out, our clients do fill out a risk tolerance, but you don't fill out the one that everybody gets the same medicine. If you are balanced, you're here. If you're moderate, you're here. And you get the same thing as this one gets, as this one gets, as this one gets. Because we do the work on the first 3 quadrants, Tony, we understand more about the client and more what their actual goals are. And by doing that, when we're doing portfolio design, we can really align it with them. One off, like a snowflake, like it's everyone is different, right? Active management and oversight is integral in our investment management. Risk management, diversification. You hear that word, a lot. But I think the bigger thing when we're looking at investment management at our firm is ongoing strategy alignment. We've just talked about 3 items earlier where we said, when things change, we got to do this. Oh, and then you get to this stage, you got to do this. And you get to the RMD stage. Now we got to now we have to change this. Well, your investment management should be doing the exact same thing because your life is changing. So as your life changes, the strategies change. How we do things change. As your personal, you might have like from the enhanced planning side, you might be like, legacy became more important. Yeah. We better adjust the investment management. The tax strategy, now I'm getting the required distributions. We better adjust that investment management. So it's all of these kinds of things, or starting that income plan where you're pulling income. It better be adjusted. So it's in a very important part to the 4 pillars, Tony. But without the previous 3, I think it's hard. It would be hard for someone to do a good job on it, to be quite frank.
Without making costly mistakes. I mean, you have to have the other 3 pieces in place. If really the reason most people invest or have money in the market is through a 401k or retirement account or IRA, and it's not just to grow wealth, but it's to grow wealth for later. You need some growth, and everybody focuses on that because they think growth, which is great. But if you don't have an overall financial strategy and retirement plan, you're going to make costly mistakes that can deplete those growth investments. Right?
100%. Yeah, you're right, and that's exactly kind of our thought process on it. Is if you don't really understand the first 3 quadrants, the enhanced, and I'll just go through it one more time: the enhanced planning, the personal wealth, the tax strategy, the investment management piece, and the reason we talk about it last, Tony, and not first, is because we can't make recommendations on investment management without understanding the first 3 quadrants. You just can't. Like I know people do. I know it happens all day, every day. But from my standpoint as a fiduciary, I just feel that I really have to get to know somebody in these other categories and then the investment management. It's an important piece, as all four of these are. It's very important because we want to make sure that we are aligning with your goals. But again, we need all four pillars of advanced planning to make the wheel go around.
Yeah. Yep, you have to have all four pillars. I know that I wouldn't want to be on a foundation of any less than four. That's for sure.
It's true though. Yeah, it is. And I like to, again, like my clients, they've gone through these, they just don't realize it, like quite frankly, because we don't, before we never showed anybody these. Now we're getting a lot of people in, so we're actually showing people this, so they maybe they have a better understanding of this is our process, before we kind of engage together. But but our clients, every single one of them went through this. No client that came in here did we just say, oh yeah, we can manage your portfolio. Here's what we'll do for you, and do it. It doesn't make a lot of sense.
Yeah,
as far as me.
Well, I think it's a great show, and I see it's a great basis for what you do to help all your clients, and you've helped so many in the community with this. How can our listeners and viewers out there get this plan in place with these four pillars and make sure that they have all their ducks in a row, so to speak?
You know what? I would encourage them, reach out, 630-780-1099. You can come in. I have a 3-step process here, Tony, where we come in and we meet somebody for, I would say, 45 minutes. And we're kind of focusing, on them and some of those pillars. We're not getting into them. We certainly don't talk about investment management, but we would definitely talk about the enhanced planning piece a little bit, so we have a better idea of their family. And we don't charge for that. That's complimentary. And then we would go to, step 2, where we would look deeper into the, the retirement income planning and things like that. And we would prepare reports so people know this is where they're at. Whether they choose to engage us or not, I think it's a very important 2-step process. 3rd step, we're figuring out how we can work together. But the first 2 steps they're complementary. So people should get second opinions. I'm a big proponent of that. If I had a healthcare incident, I'd be getting a second opinion. We're coming to the end of the year, Tony. This is the time. This is the time to kind of make the phone call, come on in and sit down. You can also go to apadvisorsgroup.com. We have lots of information there. You can book appointments straight on there too. But we have lots of information and other great shows with Tony and I, some blasts from the past. So I would encourage that. I think it's important. You can tell I'm passionate about it, but we are coming to the end of the year. We are coming into Thanksgiving. People will be talking about this. We get a lot of calls in January, Tony, because it comes to year end. But I would say people get on it now before January, beat the rush.
All right. Sounds great, Rob. And listeners and viewers, thanks for tuning in. That does it for today's episode of Ready, Aim, Retire with our host, Rob Kirvan.